Welcome back to the channel where we are the hoons of the archery world. And today we're going over my Dart and TRITECH 35 TAC target buildy majiggy thingy here. And it's kind of like based around going to a TAC event where you're shooting longer range at different, foam targets and whatnot, yada yada, you get the point. I finally feel like I have enough arrows through it and I've tinkered with it enough that I am okay with sharing some things. There's only one thing that I'm left that I want to tweak with, but that's kind of something I want to talk about in another video because it's going to relate on how and why different bows feel different and how you can make the different platforms feel the same as each other, because there's a lot of little tweaks and there's a lot of little fairy magic going on inside of here that you can change to make it, it doesn't matter. So if you out there want to build one, and maybe here's a little inspiration. Okay, I realize that my sawhorse right here is a little ghetto setup, but I have a bench coming. We are gonna have a really nice bench in an area to work on stuff in this area, as well as we're gonna have a press. We're gonna have all sorts of fun tools. Matter of fact, I have a bunch of tools that I've collected that are over on the bench. Real quick, before we get into all this though, I want to give a little shout out to my personal archery shop that I go to, and that's going to be Becker's Archery in Fowler, Michigan. If you are anywhere in the mid-Michigan area, or if you can make it to the little village of Fowler to get your bow work done, the owner there, he shot target for a very long time. I volunteer a lot of my spare time to go over there and help him, as well as just try and soak up as much knowledge as he's willing to give out. And it's a good time. It's a very nice little shop. When you're there, you might even see me. Well, before we get into the specs on the bow, let's talk arrows. I want to get this out of the way first. These are some Victory Rip XVs, which I do believe that these are the lightest GPI 5mm arrow on the market. They're even lighter than the new Easton 5.0s, but I will say I think the 5.0s are a little stronger than these. I think these guys sacrifice a little bit of strength for their speed and lightness, but that's what you're going to get out of these things, is an extremely light and extremely fast arrow. I mean, that's what XV stands for, extreme velocity. These right here are 370 grains. I think 371 to be exact. I'm running on their 3 DCA mini sabers along with some red wraps. Now, where I did change a little bit on these arrows, because these are a 350 spine, I'm running Victory's upgraded stainless steel 60 grain insert, along with a 100 grain tip. But these things come with a 20 grain aluminum insert, so if you run that, take 40 grains off of there, you're running 330. That'd be extremely light and a little bit too light. I wouldn't want to run that out of this bow at 70 pounds. Shall we get into the bow? Let's go over the specs first. I am a 28.5 inch draw length. I am shooting this bow at 70 pounds. I am running Darton's speed mods that come with the bow. So I forget what it is. They send a pair of mods that come in the bow that are not labeled anything. And then they also send in the package a set of speed mods, which I found in my personal setup, I gained almost 15 feet a second when I switched to the speed mods. So I kept them in there, and I don't think the draw cycle is that rough. If you are one out there that may shoot a Matthews or used to a Matthews draw cycle, I think this feels the exact same now. So do with that what you will. I'm running the speed mods. I am also running their 75% let-offs. So the bigger draw stop posts that come in the package as well, I've got those in there. I like the more holding weight. I like the stiffer draw cycle. I don't mind if the bow feels a bit like a race car. It's a little edgy, it's a little jumpy, but you know what? I like it like that. A little stiff, a little fun, a little fast, a little aggressive. Moving on. I'm still running the stock strings and cables on here. However, I do want to change these out kind of soon. I don't know why that they decided to run black cables and then the white string that's just like these little bits of white. It's kind of just not, it's a look and it's not the look that I like. But in here, I am running a little bit of a special Peep. This is the special Peep. I believe it's the Specialty Archery Podium Peep. I did this because I like to try and have my sight housing and my peep housing when I'm looking through them line up perfectly. And to do that, these peeps make it really easy because you can just screw the aperture in and out and change your peep size on the fly. I think right now I am down to an 1/8 inch peep in here, and it lines up absolutely perfectly with my current scope setup. I like the look of looking through a tube more than like just the little donuts. Since I switched away from shooting the donuts, I really just don't like them. They're a little bit more tricky because you do have to make sure you keep your D-loop and your peep lined up, because if you draw back and your peep's a little crooked either way, it does throw it off a bit more. But I think it's definitely worth the hassle to run one of these peeps that you can change your aperture on the fly, so you can keep this and this lined up perfectly, because if these are out of a line, then it doesn't really matter where you put your pin. It's not ever going to be in the same spot. You know what I mean? It's kind of like looking down a gun. you got to line up the back sights and the front sight. And if they're not in line, it doesn't matter where you put the front sight, it's not going to aim right. Yeah, you know what I mean. You got to line them up. Line up your peep in your housing, shoot it. It'll be in the same spot. It's going to help you with accuracy, especially at the longer distances. Kind of doing, the theme of top to bottom. We're going to be down to the sight now, and this is kind of a weird sight setup. This is an Excel AccuTouch Carbon Pro, I believe, and I have it paired up with an UltraView UV3 scope. This is actually one of the older ones, so it's like the blue and gray tinted one. It's I like the color of this more. Now all the new ones are just black, but they all do the same thing. They all have the really nice light in here. They got the quick change cartridge pins. I'm running a double pin in 10,000ths, and I love it. This is my first experience using one of these UV scopes, and my word, these things are sweet. I think that the UltraView scopes they make are better than the scopes that come on the UltraView sights. I would personally like to maybe switch out my whole mechanism over here, the AccuTouch. I like it, it works. I don't really have any major complaints other than it's just kind of big, and the system for going up and down is, I don't know. I'm at like a real crossroads with it. I really like it, but at the same time, on my Matthews, I have the driver, and I like how that functions more. Maybe I'll get really crazy and I'll put the driver mounted to this bracket, and I'll put this bracket in the Matthews, and we'll do all sorts of messing around with things in the future. The rest. This is where I think we need to talk about picking a rest for the TRITECH, because the TRITECH has a feature, their timing feature, I think makes it where you should have to put a limb-driven rest on this bow. Their timing system on here, you can just loosen this without a press, and you can turn their little timing things up here and time your bow without a press and get it perfectly timed. Problem is, if you were to run a cable-driven rest and run it into the cable and you twist it a little bit, maybe that cable ends up on the wrong side, or your rest cable that is, and then you got to repress it anyway to realign that. So running a cable-driven rest on one of these TRITECHs, or I think even Darton's last year model that has this same timing system on here, it kind of seems like redundant to me. I don't know why you would do that, because it's a feature to use without a press, but yet you would still have to press to fix your cable-driven rest. So I went with a limb-driven rest, and this is the Hamskea Epsilon V2. I know it's not the new fancy R7, but from what I can tell, that this is actually very, very similar to an R7. It's just not integratable on the back, but it's not that big of a deal to me. This was just half the cost of an R7, so that's why I went with this one and not the R7. Also, at the time when I built this bow, the R7s were out of stock literally everywhere. So there was that too. Being a limb-driven rest, you can monkey with your timing all day long and not worry about monkeying up any of your cable-driven stuff. You don't got to do any of that. So it's truly, you don't have to press it to time it. You can do it 100% without a press, and it's great. All right, we're gonna reach my favorite part of this bow, and that is actually gonna be the stabilizers. I'm running the UltraView stabilizers. If you are in the market for building, say, a TAC style bow, give these stabilizers a look. One, the price. For being an UltraView product, these things are extremely reasonable. I also think their quick connects are some of the best around. It's like a little T-post that actually slots down in there. I don't know, I like weird kind of quirky engineering things, in the way that the T-post is locking together on there. It just seems like a more robust system than the other ones. It's just a little oval that go in there. And I don't know about you, but like with the oval ones, I always seem to put them in upside down and go, oh shoot, got to take it back out, flip it around, and then it spins around on you a couple times and you put it back in there and it's still upside down. And you're like, okay, hold on, two-hand it, put it in there. Okay, this is right. With their whole T-post system here, you really cannot mess it up. It's just, it just works. It works so good. Another really cool feature about these things too is their weight system. It's just, you can buy these. They're these little tiny things that just quick turn on the end of their bar. Now you don't have to actually run their weights. They do run a standard thread in there. Look how just like sleek these little bars are. Like, it's just so small. They actually build these things with 2 ounces already on the end. So this is the side that goes back there. I think they could make this a little bit lighter back here. If you're watching this UltraView, it does seem like there's definitely maybe a bit more weight to the back of these than there really needs to be. But no, they do build these with 2 ounces already in the back. I'm running 3 ounces front and rear. I'm running a 12 on the front and a 10 on the back. I'm running their quick connect in the front. I'm running their V-bar bracket on the back. I think roughly the cost of my entire bar setup, back, front, quick connect, weights, is like the cost of one bridge lock stabilizer. So just let that sink in for a second. Speaking of bars too, I'm running Darton's bipod system on here. Oh, I didn't even point out, I'm running my 12-inch stabilizer in the lower hole on my TRITECH. I find that it holds super steady in the wind like this. And you're gonna need it because this bow is a bit of a wind sail. And if I put this up in the upper stabilizer hole like you normally would, then it kind of like the wind wobbles the bow a little bit, but with all the weight down here like I've got it, it really does just kind of stay planted, but it does just push side to side. It is a freaking wind sail. And then with the bipod and the lower stabilizer, I actually will tip it forward quite often and tripod it so that way you can keep the cam out of the dirt. I don't really like setting the cam down in grass or dirt, but with this down here, and with these on here, it works awesome. I wish that they made these guys just a touch longer. I might make my own custom legs at some point that are just about an inch longer. So it would kick it forward a little bit more, make it a little bit more steady, but it works good for now. So if I get to it, I get to it. If not, it's fine. This is my Darton TRITECH. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I am well aware that I had a bit of a rocky start to owning this bow. Since getting everything sorted out, I've definitely fallen in love with it. I shoot it a lot. I shoot it a ton. You know, I've got one other complaint so far, and that's going to be their grip. I don't like how rounded over they did the grip on here. It just feels like it rocks around in my hand. I feel like I have a hard time with my personal hands getting a good consistent hold on the bow. But I do have a new grip on the way, and that's going to be something that ties into one of the upcoming videos where, you know, you hear it a lot where guys talk about, well, this was the best shooting bow I ever had. And back to shout out to the archery shop that I'm at all the time. The guy over there has taught me a lot of little tips and tricks of, you know, what may make a bow feel different from person to person. And not a big deal because Darton did make it on this bow where you can swap the grip. And I did find a guy that is making custom grips. I believe his name was George's Gizmos. So when that gets here, we'll go over that, give it an overview, and hopefully that is the final touch to this bow that's going to make it absolutely perfect. Other than probably a new set of strings and cables, because the fact that they're mismatched color also kind of drives me nuts. I don't know why you did that, Darton. If you're going to put white strings on it, just commit and put white cables on it right here. This is what I think I'm going to do for the strings and cables on this setup. I'm really looking forward to next week's video where we're going to deep dive some archery science and talk about what makes bows feel different. So maybe if you're out there and you bought a new bow this year and it doesn't fit you quite right, or it doesn't seem quite right, or you don't shoot it quite as good, we're going to talk about all that next week, where we're going to go over all the science, what makes them feel a little bit different. But yeah, I will catch you guys then. Peace out.